Welcome to today's episode of ClearIQ Insights. My name is Kelly Noto. I am a senior advisor with ClearIQ. In today's episode, we're going to talk about thinking horizontally across an organization. We will use 3 case studies to explain how we've helped organizations think horizontally across their enterprise. 2 of the case studies are more transformational in nature, whereas the third case study is actually from an operations example. As we evaluate these case studies, we're going to think through who needs to be involved as a stakeholder, when should decisions or changes be rolled out, and can the entire organization support the rollout. In the first of our case studies, we're going to talk about who is a stakeholder in the organization. We've had clients that think about, I'm doing a procure-to-pay solution. Obviously, my procurement and payables departments are stakeholders, maybe my division presidents. But we also have to think about who are the people actually requesting goods and services. In one example, we had a factory floor person request a differentiating requirement to be able to snap the picture of a maintenance requirement for one of his pieces of equipment that had on it the amperage and the voltage and all of that information that from a technical perspective the vendor needed to know. Unfortunately, he was not allowed to have mobile device because he was an hourly employee, and HR was concerned about making sure they followed state regulations in terms of employment law. We were actually able to work with HR and with IT to allow the different factories to have tablets that could be used by the hourly employees for the purposes of procure to pay, but were then not allowed to be taken home. So in having an expansive view of a factory foreman giving us a requirement, HR and IT jumping on board with the procure to pay process optimization, we were able to solve a procure to pay issue. Our second case study involves when changes can be implemented. So we've had several clients where we've had to think through both business and technological impacts of when they could deploy a change. From a business perspective, we've had clients who did not want to deploy changes in February and March because that was with their busy season for order entry and sales processing. We've had clients who did not want to deploy a change in August or September because that was a huge component of receiving of goods and services in their warehouses. So they didn't want to disrupt that receiving process. We've had clients who have had IT constraints where they wanted to make sure they were deployed and fully rolled out by a particular date because that was going to be the contract renewal date. And they needed to make sure that they didn't have to renew the contract, right? So as projects and transformational opportunities are getting slated, it's important to sit down early on and understand both the business constraints and the technical constraints of when things can be rolled out. In our third case study, we're going to talk about how we used a RACI chart, so responsibility, accountability, consultative, and informed elements, not in a project sense where it's typically used, but in an operational sense. We've had clients where we've worked with their go-to-market component, where marketing and sales would collaborate on a opportunity for a product family discount, but they would not necessarily collaborate with the supply chain or the manufacturing elements that needed to be brought in to have a seat at the table so that they could ensure that the product that was going on sale could actually be delivered to the clients in the timeframes that the sale opportunity required, right? So using some of those project components like a RACI chart or a RACIC chart or a rapid decision-making process in an operational element, making sure that all of the proper people have a seat at the table. In summary, as we've worked with organizations to think horizontally across their different departments. We've encountered 4 different operating principles that ClearIQ uses with its clients. We need to create an expansive view of stakeholders. We need to make sure that we think horizontally when timing deployments, whether for transformational or operational activities. We need to ensure that inventory volumes can support upcoming sales promotions. We need to make sure that we can leverage RACI or RACIC or rapid decision-making frameworks and accountabilities across the organization operationally, even though those tools are typically used inside of a project world.